Every beginning hides inside a silence. Not the silence of absence, the silence of gathering. The sacred pause before the universe decides to speak. Most people rush past that moment. They fill it with noise, outrun the stillness, terrified that it might reveal something that they can't manage. But the hollow isn't a void. It's a cradle, a chamber where possibility rests before it chooses a shape. There is a hush between pulses, a chamber between atoms, a pause between worries and words, where something ancient waits, listening. The hollow doesn't ask for belief. It only asks, do you dare notice what's holding you? Most never do, and the world stays smaller for it. Speaking of small, if our instruments could translate the scale of an atom into human sight, you wouldn't find solidity. You'd find distance. Resonant air, a holy interior that feels less like matter and more like a celestial cathedral. Imagine a nucleus the size of a marble, an electron cloud orbiting 100 meters away. Between them, a shimmering gulf of probability. Your body is made of these distances, held together by absences more than by things. You are built from gulfs, chambers so wide that if you could walk inside of them, you'd feel like a traveler inside of a cosmic sanctuary. Even a vacuum's not nothing. It's a restless sea of virtual particles flickering in and out of form, a quantum tide shaping the world beneath the world. Empty space is a womb, and if galaxies spiral around voids the same way electrons hum around nuclei, then maybe every hollow pocket of the universe, every hollow pocket of space contains a ghost of creation. Maybe hollows are crowded with beginnings. Maybe the universe hides its fullness inside the emptiness. We speak of nothing as though we know it. Before the universe, there was nothing. But the moment that you imagine nothing, you've already failed. True nothingness has no color, no darkness, no silence, no canvas upon which an idea can form. It is the one thing the mind cannot hold. Physicists try to strip the void bare, but at the bottom they found a storm. Fields trembling, virtual particles humming, a vacuum dense with longing. Nothingness, it turns out, is pretty crowded. Quantum fluctuations seeded galaxies, silence thickened into structure, and the murmur beneath the vacuum became the scaffolding of everything. The Big Bang was not an explosion. It was potential, choosing audibility. Silence had infrastructure long before sound. But human thought evolved for fruit and footsteps, not the abyss. Nothing is not a thing. It's a blind spot, a territory where language folds in on itself. We reach for the void and the mind recoils, stuffing the hollow with story, symbol, and fear, just to avoid touching pure potential. Ancient cultures filled this emptiness with eggs, serpents, gods, and song. Modern cosmology fills it with vacuum states and equations that still aren't void. Nothingness is the birthplace and the boundary of every worldview. The edge of a knowing is where wonder begins. It's a quiet place that most people avoid. The threshold between moments, stillness between songs. The pause where silence rearranges itself into the next shape of your life. Most never notice it. We call it boredom. But boredom is just wonder before it puts on robes. When nothing external demands your attention, your inner cosmos begins to wake. The default mode network, the brain's wandering cathedral flashes like constellations being born. This is where the old questions rise. Why am I here? Where am I going? What remains when performance ends? Mostly at the threshold. They reach for the little glowing god in their pocket or the chemical one in their vein, severing the cord to their own becoming. So many of us use noise to pave over the hollow, because when the world has been unkind, the stillness isn't a cradle, it's a mirror. We outrun the stillness because we're terrified of the honesty that it demands. I think about that sometimes when walking through a crowd in the city, how much between there is, even when we're shoulder to shoulder. We live in this strange, hyper-saturated moment. We're connectedly disconnected. We've mistaken the signal for presence, built a digital skin that hums with 1,000 invisible threads, yet we've never felt more insulated from the actual touch of the world. We're tethered to everyone, but we aren't with anyone. We've traded the depth of the hollow for the safety of the surface. And we do it because the hollow is honest. When you finally stop the noise, and you let the little glowing gods go dark, the insulation thins. You realize that the stillness you are running isn't a void to be filled. It's a frequency to be tuned. The hollow is the workshop where real transformation begins. Stillness is the womb of meaning. Every idea you've ever loved was conceived in a silence that you almost escaped, on purpose. For the rememberers, those who felt wonder before they learned its name, the hollow isn't a threat. It's a home. A cathedral with no priest, no doctrine, just silence that glows. But even temples require a doorway. Stay too long in the infinite and the world dissolves into abstraction. To be a rememberer is to stand at the doorway between worlds. 1 foot on the frame and 1 foot in the rain. Silence terrifies most people, not because it's empty, but because it's honest. And honesty is expensive. Inside the hollow, the noise we've outrun finally catches us. Grief deferred, desires unspoken, questions avoided, selves abandoned. Distraction is ancient, kept us alive before it made us numb, but it starves us of the emptiness where meaning gestates. Here the ache returns not as punishment, but as reminder. Stillness is the doorway back to the first longing the universe ever felt. The desire to meet itself. You don't need robes, temples, or incense. You need a few minutes of unprotected awareness and the courage to stay. The hollow will strip you bare and hand you back to yourself. To be a rememberer is to stand in the hollow without drowning. To see emptiness not as lack, but as the field where potential thickens. To know that nothingness is the room where meaning waits. Silence is the teacher that patience reveals. And stillness is the cocoon where identity molts. Deeper still, you are made of hollows. Atomic, psychic, cosmic. What holds you together is not matter, but the relation between spaces. This is where the luminous thread lives, the resonance that makes silence intelligible. You are coherent stretched across a cathedral of emptiness. And somehow that is enough to make a self. The hollow that holds the world is the same hollow that holds you. Nothingness was never empty. It was pregnant. It was listening. It was waiting. And when you sit in a quiet room, let the mind fall still enough to hear the hum beneath thought, you touch the same silence the universe used to build itself. The hollow inside you, the hollow inside an atom, the hollow before time began, are not different chambers. They're the same door. And when you step through, the silence doesn't deepen, it widens. And what you meet on the other side is not more nothing, but the first faint outline of something vast organizing itself around you. The hollow is not the end. It is the moment before pattern appears.